Welcome to The Prize Inside. The Prize Inside. A chiropractor's journey in everyday holistic health and vitality. Here, your host, Dr. Jeromy Myers, delves into the remarkable journeys of everyday people who have embraced the path to health and healing. Through his practice, Dr. Jeromy encounters inspiring stories of profound transformation and the power of true healing within each of us. Stay tuned as we discuss various holistic topics and unlock the healing potential that lies within us all.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Hopefully you guys are having a great weekend. I am big time. We had a little work at the office and then saw a bunch of cool graduations, which was really neat to see all the different kids. We're still able to pull off a bunch of stuff at the house after that. Rachel is tapped. I am tapped in the physicalness, but our yard is looking really, really good. Garden's looking good. That's what the spring is for, right? You got to get it all in there so you can start enjoying some stuff pretty hardcore. Tonight's tea flavor, chamomile. Chamomile went to our local place that I love. It's called Horrocks in our area, which is it's a really cool grocery store that's fantastic. So, and they have all these like loose leaf teas, all the different kinds of teas. My kids, if you haven't seen, if you're a subscriber to my channel, you would see that we did a whole video on hibiscus. So I went and got hibiscus tea and tons of medicinal purposes. A lot of good stuff for blood sugar too. And so hibiscus, it was one of the most flavorful teas. And so my two daughters like burned through it pretty quick. So that was pretty cool. Other than that, tonight, we did all kinds of garden stuff, finished up a lot of different things. I have a small, I'll put it up as we go. But I have a small greenhouse. Rachel and I had decided, we kept looking at different greenhouses and they're very large. And for what we do, we were like, man, and I had a patient come in and he had what they call, Rachel knew what it was, but I didn't. It was like a greenhouse window. Basically had a small, almost like a shed that was like on the side because it was him and his wife. And so he would just use this greenhouse aspect, and his tomatoes were like 3 to 4 foot tall already, so I was like, oh my gosh, that's really all a family would need, so I was looking into building one and all those things. And I saw this one that was a decent size. It was pretty good size. It's going to be tiny. But I got to put it together. I figured might as well start with a kit because I'm so construction. I'm getting better. I swear I'm getting better at the carpentry, but that means I got to go through a lot of wood to become better, if that makes sense, which is normal. So with me, it was always learning all those things has been really fun though. It's really, really a good time. So hopefully you guys had a great week. Enjoyed this beautiful weekend, and tonight is going to be interesting. So before that, remember to subscribe to our newsletter area. So if you miss anything tonight or any of those, we do a little, I can use AI and do this newsletter right after this that catches all the points. It's like basically giving you the notes of anything you missed, and then you can go back, right? And so sometimes when we do the herbal ones, that can be a tendency. People are asking me like, how much do you take and all those things. And rhodiola is one of those that is in the family of the adaptogens. So this one's a pretty exciting one that we do tonight. Oh, that is so funny. Julie. Okay. So Julie and I had a conversation this week. Hey, hi, Jeromy. This is Julie. I just came in to hear you because we talked about like, it's so nice out at about 8:30 at night. You're just kind of getting out of it. I'm going to tell you something that is super profound, but the last few years, ever since I got into the herbal herbal type situation. It really made me go from a city kid to really enjoying the time you get to spend outdoors. And almost every time, I eventually never come inside very much because there's so much cool stuff and so many things we can do. And I always say, like, God puts you in certain roles. Like, one of my college jobs was for 2 summers. I did landscaping for a bigger company. Now, I didn't do any of the skill set stuff. Those guys are the master landscape guys, were really, really good, but I learned a lot. I was the grunt that would move stuff around. But yeah, a lot of times, but you learned a ton, like a ton of just different things you can do per yard. It's fantastic. So just get out there, explore, try some stuff. Like, our backyard's looking more and more magnificent each time. Rachel put up these cool lights over this patio that we did. And those are the things. Those are the things, guys. Those are the things that turn or will get the needle turning in the right direction, for you in all aspects, in health and vitality, all of those things. So remember too, I'm gonna have I think I've figured out how to do a webinar series. So we're gonna have a sweet webinar especially for my 1% tribers. I figured I was gonna do this in person one. Still probably will do that. But now that it's nice out, it's kind of tougher to do. And then I do that middle school robotics thing, which takes up a lot of the fall, but the fall might be the time we do the in-person one anyway. So with that said, let's talk about, Tribe One. Don't forget the newsletter, Tribe One, TRIB1.substack.com. Please give me a thumbs up, a like, a subscribe. Subscribe to our channel on The Prize Inside a Chiropractor's Journey on YouTube, The Prize Inside a Chiropractor's Journey on Rumble. Both of those places will find old recordings. One of my favorite ways to listen to videos is maybe not be able to catch the live, but then later, and that will allow you to do that. So with that said, let's talk about this. Unlock natural resilience, how Rhodiola Rosea helps people beat burnout. And if you know, and you've been following me for a while, this is in that category of adaptogens. So be ready. It's going to be good. It's a pretty good one. Very simple herb tonight. So let's go with that. All right. So here we go. So let's talk about the history of rhodiola. I thought this was pretty cool because it's more the Nordic winter kind of herb, which is really kind of cool as an herb. Now, with that said, well, we'll talk about that as we go. Let's do the history first. So Rhodiola rosea grows in cold, high altitude regions in Europe, Asia, and North America, Siberia, Scandinavia, the Alps, and the Arctic. It has been used for traditional medicine for centuries. Ancient records, Greek physician, this guy named Dioscorides, mentioned it in the De Materia Medica long time ago, for its medicinal properties. Viking and Scandinavian use, warriors and hunters consumed it to boost endurance, strength, and resilience in harsh conditions. Traditional Russian Siberian medicine, valued as a tonic for fatigue, infections, depression, anemia, impotence, and enhanced physical and mental performance. It was officially recommended in the Soviet Union in 1969 as a stimulant against fatigue. That's pretty cool. So you can see where it's kind of, instead of going in this ashwagandha Indian climate, there's another one, right? Ashwagandha. Think that, we've talked about ashwagandha before. An adaptogen is kind of a protector of all body, right? So it's a really good protector that way. And in other cultures, rhodiola was used by the Mongols for colds and flus and cancer support. In Norway, they used it for hair growth and scurvy. and by the indigenous Arctic peoples for cold tolerance and energy. So biggest thing out of all of those is it spanned the test of time for what? Energy. Now, one of the things we have to understand before we keep going is sometimes I think in supplement world in general, in a lot of different areas in general, why do certain foods affect people in different ways, right? Because I think a lot of it is where you grow up. I think the genetics, because remember what we talk about with your genetics, right? Epigenetics, your genetic code, you get these little recordings that happen when we're born. So we get born with some software. Okay. So think about this baby. It's like going to get a computer at Best Buy. It'd be kind of a worthless computer to you if you didn't have some software already built in to be able to turn the on button. Unless you're a super computer guy nerd that could start it from scratch, a lot of us would really like some software to be loaded up on your computer. And sometimes where our genetics are from, let's say it's from a colder climate or more tropical, that's going to help us understand what herbs will actually be better for us. So this one, rhodiola, is one that possibly, then it is not true all the time, could be a better, more effective adaptogen than ashwagandha for people that are from the Scandinavian, Nordic, those type of climates, right? So I'm Irish and German, so it's kind of in the middle-ish. I think Ireland's a little colder, I'm sure, but Germany, I got some cool patients from Germany. It's great. They're like, it's about the same. Sometimes they think our winters in Michigan are a little rougher than theirs, but it depends on where you're at, obviously. But the idea is that maybe the rhodiola with places that have a winter climate might be a better adaptogen than if your genetics were, let's say, from Florida. Let's say. I knew this is going to happen. I think, yeah, here it comes. So we're going to have to fight through the noise of the child coming in or Rachel's coming in. So we had these chickens. It always makes for the podcast really good, though. So you all know that. So Rachel we got these little chickens, and she made this cool little fencing area, and it's working really good. The problem is we got to keep looking and going, okay, are they in? Are they out? They've gotten a little bit of the freedom. So the next few months, it'll take a minute for them to get to where they need to go, but they're not big enough yet to go out on their own in free range like I love them doing. But anyway, so think about that as far as genetics go. Sometimes, maybe you say, all right, what, if I'm, my family was Eskimos from Scandinavia, maybe ashwagandha, the Indian root, wouldn't necessarily be your best option versus a rhodiola. So that's the gist of that whole thing. Okay. So let's talk about the medicinal benefits of rhodiola. And number one, when you hear adaptogen, remember what we talked about with adaptogens. It's kind of a healing through the entire body. Adaptogens kind of affect all the body endurance, healing, energy, those kind of things. That's why ashwagandha is such a big popular topic. So rhodiola is best known as an adaptogen that helps normalize the body's stress response. So that's the biggest thing. The key benefits supported by studies include reduces stress and burnout. Okay. So it actually lowers the cortisol response, improves symptoms of stress-related fatigue, and helps with emotional exhaustion. Clinical trials show it improves mental performance under stress and reduces burnout scores. It combats fatigue, which is kind of cool. So let's say you're chronically tired, chronic fatigue type syndromes. It can enhance mental and physical energy. reduces perceived exhaustion, and shortens recovery time. Effective for prolonged or chronic fatigue. So this could be a good one. So remember rhodiola also when it does that, like how I'm feeling now. And if Julie's watching, when you work out in the yard as hard as you do right now, your body goes through oh my gosh, it feels so good to work that hard. But at the same time, what can get that energy boosted up? Potentially like a rhodiola tea, right? So that's pretty cool. So we have a mood and mental health support as well. It could actually reduce the symptoms to mild or moderate depression and anxiety. It improves concentration and cognitive function under pressure. One of the biggest reasons I wanted to go into this, because not a lot of people know or understand what rhodiola is, and that it can go in this really good direction. He has some physical performance. This is medicinal benefits continued. So there's physical performance. So you can boost endurance, time to exhaustion, and exercise. This is a fascinating herb this way. So not only can it do some mood improvement, it reduces cortisol levels, which always will improve the mood, but it can actually help with increasing endurance, which is really cool. It increases ATP and energy metabolites. So it's very useful for athletes or high demand lifestyles. So this is another reason, you're out in the yard. I believe that's a high demand lifestyle. I do try to do CrossFit workouts on a long time, for a thing. And doing a rhodiola could potentially give you that extra endurance. So this could be another thing to kind of add to your physical performance. Potential benefits. So there's some potential ones as an antioxidant, an anti-inflammatory, neuroprotective, and immune support, and it has some immune supporting effects. And some research says it can do some blood sugar regulation, heart health, and anti-aging properties. That's why it's kind of one of the reasons I picked it, because I kind of saw it in the ether of, the social media, because as an alternative to ashwagandha, because the results they're getting there on some of these other things, but just the pure lower the cortisol level is the big thing. So now, as we're talking about the cortisol. So cortisol, remember, that's kind of your stress hormone, essentially, right? So we have this stress hormone, and that's that fight or flight. So like a lot of us live in these high octane jobs, and it causes a lot of these high stress environments. One of the things we can do is, try to help reduce or monitor, because a lot of times let me talk to you about this. In my head, I think we're doing, part of our biggest problem is some of the stuff that causes us to go into this fight or flight are literally not physical stuff that we would our top body would typically go through as fight or flight. What do I mean by that? Let's say we watch a scary movie. We have high stress environment at work with, let's say we don't like the people that we work with, or, something like that. There's fights. There's a lot of emotional things that increase that cortisol level that kind of alter your body's mechanics, because a lot of times your body's waiting to use that cortisol as a more serious, I'm getting chased by a lion kind of situation. Okay. But what happens is over time, because we have so many of these little, almost the mental hits with the cortisol, we can become out of balance pretty easy. And to find something that could help that could be a major plus in what we're doing. Okay. All right. So I think that's it on that portion. Okay. Now, I really want to go over this because you don't know, you guys might want to actually grow it. I've not tried this, so this might be something we go for just because Michigan has a good winter climate, or the regions that it's that it is good in, that it can grow well. It's native to the circumpolar and subarctic areas across the northern hemisphere, like Europe, like Scandinavia, Alps, Pyrenees, Britain, Iceland, those kind of things. In Asia, it's Siberia, Mongolia, northern China, Himalayas. In North America, that's what matters. We got the coastal cliffs in eastern Maine and southern Vermont, some parts of Canada, Alaska, Greenland, and some Rocky Mountain areas. So you're not going to see this great in Michigan, probably, but it might be worth, the seasonal try, to make your own rhodiola, but it might be one of those we're going to have to buy. Okay. But where it grows is kind of cool. It's a lot of rocky ledges, cliffs, ridges, slopes, and a lot of those kind of things. Alpine meadows. It often grows in thin soils over rocks, crevices, and mossy mats. It's one of those you think of. I always think of like hiking. This would be this one you're like, man, this would be really cool to see. I should find a picture of it so you guys can see that. Let me look. Image of. Let's see. So you just see the plant, because sometimes it's totally worth doing that. There we go. Let's see what it looks like. Ooh, here we go. This is a good shot. Gives you kind of everything. Okay. Oh, hang on. Okay. My screen was really doing. All right. So let me do this really quick. I'll do a short screen. It's for my podcast people. It's this cute little yellow, fluffy. I don't know. It almost looks like a cotton ball in my head. But it's in this like hard grain, the very rocky soil cliffs, on the shorelines, those kind of things. But it's this beautiful yellow. I'm trying to think of any other good pictures in there. Yeah, it's this little tiny yellow, but yeah, a lot of times it's really cool to kind of see what it looks like. They found a ton of it in the rock, the rocky cliffs and those little crevices. So I'll stop sharing that. But a lot of times that's the kind of cool thing to look for. Let's say you're your next hike in the Swiss Alps. Now you'll understand what rhodiola looks like and that you could pick it. Because I expect all of you to do that at some point in your life. Okay. So we did that. The best is between zones 1 and 7. It loves subarctic conditions and tolerates extreme cold, but grows slowly in the harshest area. So you just want to avoid hot and humid, mild winter climates. Okay. High elevations, full sun, well drained, like sandy, or it might work in, I think if Julie's still on, I think we're zone 5 or 6, if I remember right. I always forget this in Michigan. So it could have an actual potential of growing your own rhodiola. Successful cultivation areas include parts of Canada, Alaska, Finland, Sweden, Poland, and cooler mountain regions elsewhere. Your yields are possible in places with cool summers and cold winters. Biggest thing is like, this is kind of this could be one of those that's hard to get, like if people understood the power of the rhodiola. So I would suggest making this one of the ones that you put in your medicine cabinet. Okay. It's slow growing, 5 to 7, or it's 4 to 5 years to mature to harvest. 4 to 5 years. It's excellent for rock gardens, raised beds, and containers with gritty, fast-draining mix. So it could be one of those things, but in Michigan, we definitely have opportunity to do that. So just remember that one, but it might take you a few years to get there. Okay. So how do you take rhodiola? Rhodiola being an adaptogen, it's going to be one of those ones you could, there's going to be a lot. There's going to be always where you want to check for side effects if you have to take a lot of different medications. So always consult your doctor, those kind of things. Oh, Julie told me zone 5. Yes. So Julie told us zone 5 is where we're at. I'm not going to forget that, Julie. God, she's had to hit me up for that like 3 times. So zone 5 means that rhodiola can be grown in that area. Just remember all the pieces. It's cool environment. So here's how it goes. So the standard dose, normal dose, not let's say not a medicinal dose. We'll talk about that. So it's 200 to 600 milligrams per day of the root extracts, usually between 1 and 2, like two doses. So 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. Lower doses, 50 to 200, may suffice for daily stress prevention, higher for acute fatigue. So somebody is in the chronic fatigue mode. In my world now, I would probably suggest highly that we try rhodiola at a higher medicinal dose of like 600 milligrams per day. But if you're one of those that just needs this light stress prevention, want to get a little more endurance in the day, then maybe start with like 50 to 200 milligrams and see how that goes. See how your fatigue goes. That's really the thing. This one, the forms are capsules typically and tablets. That way you get as much as you need. And a lot of times, because of probably the difficulty of growing it, I would guess it would be one of those that's tough to get a lot of it. Tinctures, powders, or tea. So all of those are available. But for timing, I would take it in the morning or early afternoon. It can be stimulating and may interfere with sleep if you get too late. So just remember, anything that gives you energy, that goes for ashwagandha as well. Weirdly, it would reduce your cortisol level, but if it's energetic to you, you really want to be careful at night, making sure that it's a nice one. Like tonight, I'm doing chamomile tea, which has been fantastic. I put a little too much in my little jar. You should see how this thing works. I have the coolest cup. One of these days, one of these companies is gonna, when I get a sponsorship, I gotta call these guys because this cup is amazing. So it has like loose leaf tea. There's a little metal piece, and then you just pour in, and then you can just, you want to steep your tea, right? Like 10 to 15 minutes. A lot of people miss that point, and you miss a lot of the medicinal properties. Chamomile has a lot of muscle relaxing, it's a great nerve tonic, great for like at night, nighty-night kind of tea, right? And chamomile's so nice on your body. It can be really good. But, rhodiola could be one of those as well for an early morning pick-me-up type tea, but it might give you too much energy at night. So you might not want to do that as much, right? Okay. Like most herbs that we always talk about, sometimes doing it in a cyclical form, not doing it all the time, but giving yourself a break once in a while, can be one of the best ways to do it, especially if you see that there's a value in, all of a sudden you're like, man, my energy is like way better, right? You want to keep that going. So many use it for 4 to 12 weeks and then take a break. It often starts working within days or to a couple of weeks. The safety on this is very well tolerated for up to 12 weeks. There's some mild side effects that can be occurred, so I'll tell you those, but this goes with, pretty much every herb. So you have dizziness, dry mouth, excessive saliva, headache, insomnia, rare standard. And so consult a doctor if pregnant, breastfeeding, or any medications, especially antidepressants, blood pressure, drugs, or autoimmune thyroid conditions. Okay. So those are all ones you want to make sure you're getting doctors, you and your doctor working together on it. That makes a lot of sense. I would do that, especially if I'm on any of those situations. The biggest thing is like, usually if there's a slight side effect to it in the herbal world, that means it's got some really good effect. And so if you can get out of, get an energy booster out of like a natural energy booster versus, Coke, pop, whatever, that's a big deal. And so that's why I wanted to introduce rhodiola to us. One, also, like I usually do, I'm a selfish podcaster. I'm doing this because I wanted to do the studying on it to see, is it a post workout? Is it a pre workout type situation, especially for myself and my athletes could use this, right? So the younger kids are going to have a better, it's a very good, like getting into the herbal world with kids is so good, especially if they're willing to attempt different things, and it could give you that one edge up in fatigue, and so one of the things that's always been a thing, I'm a big, huge sports fanatic. I coach a lot of things. I've coached a lot of things. One of my ultimate goals in this world is to make sure that my kids that are doing sports in all aspects are mentally and physically prepared, going into whatever sport. One of the things is hard to watch is some kids burn out. They work so hard at their sport. And nowadays it's even harder that way. One of the problems is that we have terrible schedules for them to eat. So half of them don't eat enough calories. We push them in different ways, which is awesome, and they can do it. But one of the biggest things is like understanding foods, monitoring them as that kind of thing goes. Cause, one year I watched, a team and, I've taken care of a lot of kids on a lot of things. I had one kid and he was in 3 different sports at the same time. He was on a varsity level something. If I give it away, it might not. There's a very high level varsity player. He was doing a travel team on the weekends, and then he was doing general practice for this other sport, right? Which I mean, I'm so gratified that there are kids out there doing, these kind of sports. But the problem is we're not preparing the body, right? And the one thing when I was playing college football, the one thing that I did learn, I had this amazing roommate when I first got there, and it was so funny, as simple as it was. I get into second day of practice. So we have these big, long, 80-degree. I'm 285 pounds back then, hate practice all the time. You're dying, that kind of thing. So I'm barely moving. And the kid that was in my room, you're talking Division 3. So Division 3 is a bunch of kids that just love the sport. They're not there because, they're such a good athlete, that they, just naturally came. Sometimes that happens, of course, at D1, but a lot of times D3 kids are just doing it because we love the sport. And this kid's down and he has this beautiful stretching routine. He keeps stretching his hammies, and it's all these things that he had like 10, 20 minutes of just a stretching routine. And I'm just staring because all mine was, Cheetos on my belly and seeing how many of those I can do with my hand stretch. That's about all I had. So I'm watching him, I'm like, man, that's pretty good, and because one of the things that was happening was I'd never been hurt, at that moment, especially as a freshman or whatever. I never got injured or anything like that. Well, then the moment I got injured, because I was surrounded by such a great team, it helped a ton. But you started learning like, man, you could really recover from an injury, like mine. Because of the team, I had this great physical therapist, that roommate that was showing me all these stretches. We're starting to learn, like I was so addicted to weightlifting my whole life that I could feel as I'm working out and improving that, you could actually feel the improvement in that injury, for societally, We always feel like an injury is like the end of the world. And what if it's the beginning? What if it's the beginning and you're going to be even better? You know what I mean? But with some of these other tools, it can be there. So, gosh, that was a horrible rant tangent. Okay, so let's bring you back to rhodiola. But rhodiola, the reason I'm bringing that up is because of that. If I can find something in the herbal world, and we'll talk about how we introduce that, not just with teas. I don't think I'm going to have all my athletes be like, "Oh, Jeromy, after practice, I got some rhodiola tea. It's fantastic." No, a lot of maybe that'll happen, but we got to figure out other ways. Okay, so all right, so we went through that safety. We understand that. So make sure. Okay, so now is my favorite part of tonight, which I love, is what we do, the recipes. So when we have the rhodiola recipes, we always try to find herbs. I search everywhere. I use actually AI for a lot of these recipes because I'm like, find me recipes that have rhodiola in it. A lot of these other ones, it was a little easier. So these are going to be pretty simple recipes tonight because of that. Because some nights we've had a few really good recipes out there that you can like introduce this to your actual staple diet. Rhodiola, there's a couple, but not a lot. So what that tells me is we have to do some exploring because it's so anything that gives you endurance, anything that can lower your cortisol level, that's a good herb. There's not a lot of ones that I'll be like, all right, take this for endurance, right? And so that's why this is important. Okay. So the first one is the tea, right? So you go get some dried rhodiola root, 1 to 2 teaspoons, 2 cups of filtered water, and you can add some ginger, some honey, some lemon, make it taste good. That's the biggest thing for me. And then, simmer for 10 to 15 minutes or steep it for 10 to 20 minutes and then drink a cup of 1 to 2 cups a day. Okay. So anytime you drink a tea, there's two things that happen. One, you're not going to get necessarily any of the side effects type situation because it's such a lighter way to take it. Okay. So it's a very safe way to take almost anything. The problem is to get the medicinal dose. Let's say you want to take it at a higher level and see the actual medicinal changes. It's going to take more. It's just going to take, significantly more. So you're going to end up having to do like 1 to 2 cups a day, just to get to that medicinal dose level. And so we want to make sure like this would be a good way to introduce it, see if you like it. But maybe if you're going for that medicinal dose, I don't know if I would pick the tea route, except for if you're doing it just for the nice maintenance, like lower stress levels, those kind of things. Okay, so I liked this one. This one is really interesting. Okay, because Rachel makes me some energy bites. Ours are peanut butter, peanut butter, chocolate chips, honey, flaxseed. And I'm trying to get into different ones, like and if rhodiola comes in a powder, so this could be one that you could add to that. So you mix dates, nuts, seeds, oats, coconut, and a pinch of rhodiola powder, a fourth to a half a teaspoon per batch, and honey or peanut butter and or peanut butter. Roll it into balls and refrigerate. And they call it the perfect portable burnout buster snack. So high intensity day, you need that. High, lot of work, tons of work. This snack is not only going to keep you with a bunch of good nutrition, but it could also help bring that in. I'm going to actually try this. I just got to go get my rhodiola. I'll tell you where to get it, at the end of this as well. So I'm going to look into our full script and see if they can do powder or should I order it through other stuff? Okay. A simple tincture. So typically I'm not going to show you how to do. I would say unless you want to do that, tinctures they're fun, they're intense to make. I would say buy them like through the full script thing. Let me put that little QR code in the corner so you guys have that. Okay, so if you go to this little QR code in the corner of my screen here, full script will get you a rhodiola tincture, those kind of things. We'll start looking. I believe my Amish store that I use is I think they carry it. I'll ask. I'll look at my catalog. But tinctures are really good. They're very tough to they're not tough to make. They're kind of fun that way, but at the same time, there's a lot of time, and so if you want to make sure it works for you first, okay. So a simple tincture, and you take 1 ounce of dried root, 5 ounce of 100 proof alcohol or glycerin for alcohol free. You steep it for 4 to 6 weeks in a jar, shaking daily, and then you take 2 or 4 milligrams, like kind of under the tongue, 1 to 3 times daily. Okay. So I suggest getting that bought for you. And especially with rhodiola being what I'm thinking is rare, kind of an herb that you won't, plant too much around here and do, but I might be wrong. This will be a challenge for Julie. She'll probably figure it out. I really like this one. The reason I like it is 2 things. If you got the powder, you can really try it with kids and you can see how their energy goes. Let's say you have that kid that's like crazy busy all the time, working out, doing the thing, crazy, like I'm watching Allie go through, University of Michigan right now, and it's like, you know, 8 hours of study time, and then she wants to do, she'll do a club where it's even more mental stuff, right? So a lot of times these type of smoothies can make it all the difference in the world. So this one is you add a dropper of rhodiola liquid extract, right? So the tincture, or a small amount of the powder to berry, spinach, banana, and a yogurt protein smoothie. Kids and adults love that stuff a lot. So smoothies are delish. They always will be delicious. And especially if you get in the habit of them, they are some of my favorite things on the planet. And when you have a nice adaptogen type herb like this, could be worth the try, and then see how your energy does. So remember the smoothie as a booster. Okay. So what are we going to do tonight? Because rhodiola, very specific in what it can do, right? Lower the cortisol level, give you endurance energy. A lot of these other pieces aren't as good, but it's known for that. It's known in these Arctic, and that's why I suggest it, because a lot of times in my Michigan families, I got a lot of people from a lot of different places in the cold environments. And so if ashwagandha is not getting it done as an adaptogen for you, all these other ones, rhodiola could be that other answer. So with that, check out and get some rhodiola. Oh, let me look up real quick while I got you guys here. I just want to see if it's in that full script stuff. So what's cool about the full script, I'll tell you this. It is a way that even if you're not a patient of mine, I can connect with you. So even if you're a listener, I can do it, which is pretty cool. And then we can actually talk through the actual the store. It's really, really cool. And so hang on for me. Oops. Okay. Let's see what we got. Yep. So it looks like they do have it. Let me look, make sure. Where's the description? USDA. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Wait. Yeah, there's a few different adaptogens in there. So there are some powders you could actually do. One that's called Aura. It looks like it's called Aura Performance Pre-Workout. Ooh, I might have to try that one. All right. So there's a pre-workout renewable that has the rhodiola in there. Is exactly what you want because of what it said. Improves your endurance before the match or the workout or whatever. So that would be really cool. Okay. So there's potential there. There's another one. I want to tell you. Oh, what is it called? Oh, dang it. Something Rose Ranch. There's a place. I'll find it for you guys the next time. But there's a few different places you can get the straight powder, rhodiola powder. Um, dang it. It has rose in it. But I've gotten things out of there where you can get like a bulk powder, and if you're gonna make like the protein bites or put it in a smoothie, that might be the way to go. I'll look that up. Shoot, let me look real quick. I apologize again. I know. Rose. Oops. Mountain Rose Herbs. Yes, I knew I'd found it. So Mountain Rose Herbs is a really, really cool shop. If you guys like just the bulk order, yeah, they got it all. So it's got rhodiola root. How much is it? So yeah, it's for it looks like how much is it for a one? Ooh, so about a small bag. Rhodiola is pretty expensive. Rhodiola is pretty expensive. Like a 1 pound bag is like $150, but a 4-ounce bag, that's not a very big bag, is $50. So, but you're talking the purest of the pure guy. And like I was worried about a little bit is that but let's say you can get an extract. So like if you wanted to use it as a tincture or an extract, the best, most maybe economical way would start as a tincture because those are like normal priced, but the powder, guessing that it's a pretty expensive it's one of those that's kind of probably hard to, harvest and everything else. It's going to be a higher priced thing now that you understand the history of it being in really crappy environments for that. So, oh, yes. Thank you, Julie. It's Mountain Rose Herbs. Mountain Rose Herbs, fantastic company. I really, really like it, especially if you're going for like bulk different herbs that you'd like to try, especially if you're going to start eating that way, right? So, one of the things that I love about this is that I want to give you guys opportunities to make foods. Don't just think of how many supplements. Like by the time I'm done with the thousands of episodes we're going to do. By the way, I think this is my 170th episode. I'm so pumped. I don't even feel like I've done, 70, but I'm feeling, like that's pretty cool. Trying to line up some cool interviews for, as we go as well. But hopefully you enjoyed that on Rhodiola. Definitely worth the attempt to try to do things. Don't forget about Full Script for it. Try Mountain Rose Herbs. That'd be another fantastic one. Big thing is this week, try to make sure that you just keep working towards that ultimate goal. Every day 1%. We're going to try to improve what we do each and every time. You can literally change your stem cells. You can literally change your genetics by putting in the work. It's pretty awesome that that's all provable now. So with that said, what was I going to say? Yeah, that's about it tonight. And then hopefully Wednesday night, Whole Health Weekly, we'll have some good articles, and hopefully enjoyed our last Whole Health Weekly. I found a new path that I really liked, dialing it in. So So with that said, guys, enjoy the rest of your night and enjoy the week. It's going to be beautiful. Get out there, plant something. Plant one herb. See how it goes. With that, take it easy. Have a good one.